Now what will it be? Death or exile?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Film Exiles review. And this one is of a Netflix animated series by the name of Castlevania. I mean, that's why you clicked on the link, right? And we're going to give you what you came here for. So this is going to be a spoiler-free review. And it's going to be from me, yours truly, Lupe, and from Christian. Hey, Christian, what's up?
What's up, man? Hope everybody out there staying safe, staying healthy, and you too, man. It's good to hear you.
Nice. So, fortunately and unfortunately, we got to watch this because we had time from the coronavirus epidemic, pandemic that's going on. So we've had a lot more time to watch things, and so we're happy to be bringing you guys a lot more content. And we just hope that this will be a good distraction, a pleasant diversion from some of the not so great things that are going on at the moment. So if you're thinking about streaming something and Castlevania was something that you had on your mind, like, should I get into this? Should I watch season 3 or should I just, start from the beginning? We'll have our review and our thoughts, and we hope that this will help you make the decision. So, Christian, let me just ask you general thoughts. What do you think of the Castlevania series from season 1 to season 2 to season 3? What do you think of what Netflix has done with this property?
Pleasantly surprised. Big Castlevania fan going back all the way to the old NES days, back in the 1980s and the 8-bit days. And to think that they could have grown the lore and the story and the characters that they have over the course of the last, 20 years to where we have it today, that they could create this anime series is fantastic. And I think it's great that they did this with animation, because this might have been tough to do live action. Because I don't think it would have done well with movie 1, movie 2, movie 3, and then to do a TV show, you really would have had to have like a Game of Thrones-esque kind of series to do it justice. So I am very pleasantly surprised. I believe each season has grown on itself. Season 2 is definitely better than season 1. Season 3 is missing a major character, obviously, because of what happens in season 2. And I thought that it would be possible for them to completely lose their way without that major character, and they didn't. So I'll end my quick thoughts with saying great animation, taking the time to respect the source material, not just make a happy, goofy cartoon. They really decided to go deep into the stories and keep it serious with moments of levity. And keep that respect, and kept me interested from the very first episode all the way through the end of this season. And the last couple episodes of this season were bonkers. Bonkers.
Yeah, absolutely agree. My thoughts. I absolutely love what they've done. I like whenever I see series like these, I keep on saying I just got to thank Netflix, and I'm so happy for streaming and the possibilities, because for animation, especially in Western animation, Disney, Pixar, that style tends to dominate, and it tends to be, very family friendly, very mass marketed. That means they're not taking risks. It's, full of jokes, more lighthearted, happy-go-lucky. But this is a series that's been able to, really delve into what the tone of a Castlevania should be.
Yes,
it's
it has.
Gothic, a lot of mysticism. It has horror elements to it, supernatural fantasy, and it's just so well done. As you said, the art is beautiful. The animation is really well engineered, well executed. The story is good. The voice acting is also really good.
Right.
And the action set pieces and the way the action scenes are designed, and the fluidity and the way the characters move and the sound design, it's so well done. Netflix really invested a lot into this,
Mhm.
and you can see it and you can feel it, and
It captures you. It just sucks you in.
it
Sucks you
really
in.
does. It really does. And if Netflix didn't exist, this wouldn't exist. What I need people to know about this, if you're curious, is that Castlevania, it's a blend between Eastern anime
Hmm.
and Western storytelling.
Very
So
much.
the aesthetical um, feel of it is very Eastern, and we all know in terms of like animation, they're like the kings. That's their realm. When you're talking about at least stuff that's like more mature, that style is just incredible. The way the
Definitely.
action scenes are so kinetic and the way the camera moves and it's swirling is just amazing. But then sometimes, for me at least, I know there are huge swaths of anime fans. And it's a completely different language, but um, sometimes it's not as accessible as because I'm just used to Western storytelling, and I think that this does a good job of using Western storytelling,
Hmm. Hmm.
but using Eastern animation style, and it's a perfect hybrid.
It's a good blend. I agree with you.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, let's talk about that's an overview, and basically, we're both saying like if you haven't gotten into it, and if you like any of those things you heard, go ahead and start to binge it. But let's focus specifically on season 3. So, this a little bit of if you haven't seen season 1 or season 2, you should check out now and come back later. But season 3 takes off after Dracula has been killed.
Yes.
Okay, and so we're living in a world where Dracula is no longer a threat, but the effects of what he's done in terms of like beasts coming from hell, and the world's still reeling a little bit from that, and they're trying to like kill beasts. So our main character, Trevor Belmont, um, is in a relationship with a Cypher, and there's this. So they have they're going on adventures, and they're monster hunters, and going to villages and lending their talents and skills to helping people eradicate the monsters that are haunting them and that sort of thing. So these are the two characters that we follow for most of the journey. So what do you think of these two characters and the relationship? Christian, what do you think of the time we spent with them and how the story is told through them?
Season 3 was, like you said, was definitely left in this strange spot after Dracula's death. So there's a power vacuum. There's the ramifications of everything that he did, pulling those demons and different monsters from hell over into it. And really, this show in the third season could have made, in my opinion, the bad decision of having Trevor and Sypha basically fight monster of the week, go to town of the week, be the savior of the week. They go town to town in Eastern Europe and basically just wipe the town clean,
Mm-hmm.
and wipe the village clean of monsters. And they didn't do that. And I love the fact that they plopped them into Lindenfeld basically in the first episode. And as the series and this season progressed, you got to see little pieces of their relationship that you didn't get to see before. And what was
Mm-hmm.
so cool is that they're in a committed boyfriend girlfriend relationship, whatever you
Mm-hmm.
want to call it, but their occupation is a little bit different than what you and I would be would be doing.
Yeah.
So so it's and the little quips and the stuff that go between them is the kind of stuff that you would expect a couple to be arguing about. One's drinking too much, one's doing, one doesn't take something seriously enough. And I liked that. It made them more realistic, believable characters. And Trevor wasn't just the brooding monster hunter, and Sypha was no longer the kind of the wide-eyed speaker that was just kind of figuring out the world. And you got to see more about them. I think the way they created, I'm sorry, that's not the right word, furthered their characters was very good in
Yeah.
season 3. I really
Yeah.
think it worked well. It was realistic. Go ahead.
I really like the character development. Uh, and I like the juxtaposition between Cypher, who's more optimistic and a bit happy-go-lucky, although
Definitely.
she can get nasty when
Yes,
it's
she can.
needed.
Yes, she
Don't
can.
test her. And obviously the brooding, more pessimistic Trevor Belmont, and yeah, it was really good character development. And for those to be the two characters we spent the most time with,
Yes.
it definitely was a pleasure. I also like the way they built more of the lore of the vampires, of the legacy of like Dracula, different factions of vampires,
Mhm.
um, of what was going on with Alucard. So what did you think of what was going on with Alucard? I'll first start. I personally thought that he was kind of sidelined a bit much in this one,
Yes. Yes.
and whenever he cut to him, it dragged a bit. I won't lie. His parts were my least favorites, but I can also kind of see from a story point where and why they did that, because Alucard is just crazily overpowered.
Yeah, he is.
Like the
Yeah.
dude is in terms of a character. So I feel like sometimes they do that to characters and stories. Characters who are too powerful, they sideline them. And as a Superman fan, I can tell you that that happens a lot in a lot of Justice League stories. They'll sideline Superman. He's off to the side doing something weird, or he's incapacitated because if he was around, he just shuts everything down because he's that powerful. So I thought that Alucard was like the weakest part of the story. What did you think of Alucard? Do you agree or disagree?
I agree with you that he's OP'd. He's incredibly OP'd.
Mm.
And if he had been, without ruining anything from the end of this season, if he had been with Trevor and with Sypha by the end, I think the outcome would have been a hell of a lot different having
Yeah,
him there.
absolutely.
Again, he's just too overpowered. And his interactions with both Sumi and Taka are interesting, I will say, but they're just weaker with the other two storylines that are, when you compare them to the other two storylines that are going on. I missed his dynamic with Sypha and Trevor. I really did, and I liked him with them because his stoicness and the fact that he's been around for so long and he's very serious, and having that play with Trevor and Sypha was wonderful because they kind of countered off one another, and it was sad not having them together. And I understand what he was doing. He was going into Dracula's castle and trying to figure out its secrets and his place in the world and where he's going to be moving forward. But I agree with you. It just wasn't nearly as interesting. The series seriously slowed down when it concentrated on him and both the other two people that were with him, and sped up when you were going back to the Coven of Vampires and
Mhm.
Trevor and Sypha. I
Mhm.
totally agree.
Yeah. So the main thrust of the season happens when they go to a village, and there's some mysterious stuff happening in the village, and they're investigating, and that's where tensions and events begin to ratchet up, and as they uncover what's going on, things escalate and escalate until we get to like an explosive finale where there's a reveal of what's really going on in the village. So how do you think that storyline was executed? And do you think it was a good choice, because it's basically like a B story plot,
Hmm.
not really 100% the main story plot of the entire series? So how do you like them spending time in this village, and what went on?
It was interesting because it was such a slow burn
Hmm.
getting to it, with they're carving the symbols in the houses, and you learn more about the priory as time goes on, and I don't want to ruin anything else, but what they're trying to do, and there's a huge relationship with Dracula there.
Hmm.
So there is this very slow plotting burn as we get to that, and interesting things do happen. You sense that there's a deeper darkness in the town. It's not that it's uninteresting. It's just that I think it gets a little too long to get there until we get to that explosive 2 or 3 episode finale.
Hmm.
And it was an interesting choice to make that the A plot, as you just said, because I think the B plot with Lenore and Hector and the Coven, and
Hmm.
then Isaac slowly building up his army of the
Hmm.
dead, was
Hmm.
actually, those two were more
Well,
interesting
yeah,
plots
yeah.
than the quote unquote A plot until we got to the end, which was
Hmm.
insane. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely an interesting choice on their part. And I understand Trevor and Sypha are the stars, but it just wasn't quite as interesting as what we saw going on with the Coven and what we saw going on with Isaac and Hector.
Absolutely. Like I couldn't agree with you more. Isaac is such an intriguing
Oh,
character.
he is. Yeah.
Um, Such an unusual character. Like you really like his attitude towards life
Yeah.
and
His own
human
species.
beings. And his own species is so weird, and his relationship with the resurrected beings, the monsters that he creates. But it's really cool to see what's going on with the vampire coven,
Hmm.
their plans, and then the plans that he has, and then the plans of like people. Not to really spoil anything, but there are people, in the entire universe who have their own plans that have to do with Dracula. Like Dracula is not present in season 3,
Hmm.
but his presence always is. And from what we see, we'll probably be seeing him in the future, which will be a good idea. He's really a good character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the storyline that they chose, I like the way it unraveled. As you've
Hmm.
said, it will take patience from the audience. And fortunately, this is not each episode of this series is not long, so they're just about 22 minutes, some 25, about there. So you don't have to wait like hours and hours and hours,
Yeah, we
until
blew through a few episodes a night. It was real quick. It just moves.
exactly.
Yeah, it just moves.
Same. But as you said, the finale is incredible in terms of like the action, in terms of the way it's edited. And this is something that we were talking about off this review earlier, how the finale battle, not to spoil anything, but they do this thing where it's edited with sex scenes. So in
Hmm.
another storyline, two other storylines actually, there are sex scenes happening. And at the same time, there's a battle going on somewhere else, and they're all edited and cut together. And as the acts of sex, crescendo and
Hmm.
come to a climax, the battle itself is also, burning with intensity and coming to its own climactic finale. And I just thought that the juxtaposition of love making and of war making was very symbolic, and I thought
Oh
it was
yeah,
quite beautiful, quite
it
poetic.
was.
Yeah.
I agree with you. It was beautiful. It was exciting and it was disturbing all
Yes.
at the same time.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
all at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even with that, there's a bit of like a twist with that
Hmm.
that ties everything together.
Yes. Yes.
And we're not going. This is not a spoiler review, so we're not going to go into that. But I thought that was really, really, really good writing, and another example of how this series does such a good job of tying Western storytelling techniques with Eastern animation styles. And I thought they did a really, really, really good job. I can't recommend it highly enough. I don't think that this series is for everyone.
No.
Um, but if you're somebody who you think, oh, I don't watch anime is not my thing. I think that you would like this if you like
Hmm.
animated storytelling and mature animated storytelling. So if you've ever watched any of the DC stuff, if you've ever watched any Superman animated stuff, any Batman animated stuff, stuff that's not necessarily like, the family friendly stuff,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
you will like this. That's my final word on it. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. It's definitely not for everyone. And I think that fans of anime might even also turn around and be like, well, that's not for me because it's not traditional anime.
Mhm.
But if you're a fan of fantasy, horror, gothic stories, anything vampire, you're going to like this. If you were a fan of the original Castlevania series and then the series that continued after it on the PlayStation and so you're absolutely going to enjoy this as well. The voice acting is so good. It does have you and I talked. It does have some of its negative moments. The story does drag at times.
Mhm.
I'm not a particular fan of what happens with Hector. I'll let you guys watch and find out what happens to him and make your own judgments there. But at the same time, so and I really think some of the vampires could have been bigger enemies this season instead of concentrating on the village so much. But maybe that's something they'll fix for the future. But with everything that you just talked about, with the setting, with the story, the voice acting, the artwork, just everything that we've said, put it all together, the positives far outweigh the negatives, and I think more people that give it a shot will enjoy it than not.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. Agree. All right. So there it is, our review of Castlevania Season 3. In terms of ranking the seasons, I'll say this one is just a step under Season 2, but I'd say it's better than Season 1.
Yeah, I think what I said before is true. I think they do build on one another, and they made me still, like, I was excited to see it. But if you just had to do in terms of action and story, everything, you're probably right. I think season 2 is just a hair above this one,
Just to hit.
especially because of the battle with Dracula. Yeah.
But I'm definitely looking forward to Season 4.
Agreed.
Absolutely. All right. So there it is, our review. Have you guys seen Castlevania? If you haven't, what are you waiting on? Let us know. Talk to us. We talk back. I have been yours truly, Lupe. You can find me on Twitter at LiveLoveLupe. You can find me on Vero at LiveLoveLupe as well. Christian, where can the people find you to talk more Gothic horror fantasy?
If you want, you can hit me up on Twitter at Chart6363. I'm on Instagram at the same place too.